Suga has delivered another hard-hitting mixtape titled D2. The first August D album, released in 2016, focused on the tough time Suga faced when he was a teenager. Suga's at a very different place now. He's much older and he's much more successful. And this album focuses on the changes of his feelings after becoming one of music's biggest superstars. It's a very honest album, and my personal favorite off of this is the title track, 대취타. It's an ultimate flex track slash warning slash reminder with tons of historical references, so let's take a look into it.
Yeah.
대취타 is Korean traditional marching music that was played when kings or royalty were moving about or important guests would visit, as well as when army would be marching. There are two main characters in this music video, a King Suga and a bottom class Suga. We can see that the King Suga is a tyrant. He has everyone kneeling down with the faces down in the ground. And he beheads people who have complaints in this scene. You can see the 신문고 here. People in the Joseon dynasty would hit this drum if they had something that they've been wronged. They'd hit this drum and the king or someone up in the hierarchy would come and sort out their problems. Except here, King Suga is killing the people who have such complaints and issues. But the bottom class Suga, with the help of BTS and army represented by the 6 other men and a woman in the scene, starts a coup. He drives up a car with the men representing BTS and also a cute painting of Bang PD. By the way, this painting has its origins in a Jungkook drawing of Bang PD. It's pretty funny. The King Suga sees this and gives a thumbs down and captures the bottom class Suga. The King Suga wants to kill him and does this graceful sword dance, which apparently Suga learned in 2 days. Meanwhile, bottom class Suga, blindfolded and tied down, starts headbanging, singing 대취타. Remember how I told you that 대취타 was played when kings were about, or when the army would be marching? The bottom class Suga singing this is an announcement that he is actually the real king. He feels like he's the king. The people under the king, the very ones that were kneeling to him in the beginning, are now joining Suga, headbanging with him. This 대취타 is also for them. These kneeling people are armies marching together with the bottom class Suga. At the end, the executioner who was supposed to take down the bottom class Suga actually frees him and gives him a gun. Bottom class Suga grabs this and shoots the king. I think the MV and the song is a metaphor for BTS and army taking down the existing system and the ruling forces of the industry. The King Suga represents the system, the existing system, the few powerful companies that had control over the industry before BTS came to the scene. Bottom class Suga is Suga himself in a small company with basically nothing, as if he was born into a bottom class, and winning the people over, eventually taking down the king with BTS and armies. I think Suga picked the perfect motif to convey his message. And if you look at the historical references, you'll be more amazed at how clever this all is. Wow, this single verse has a lot to unpack, but let's just start with this line. The Joseon dynasty, which is most likely where the song is set in, had a strict class system where there was a heavy discrimination based on which class you were born into. Slaves were not even considered human. They would be traded in cases their owners didn't have enough money, and they were thought of more as just things. Think about the mistreatment that BTS received earlier on in their careers. They faced heavy discrimination due to them being from a small company, and they were mistreated. So it's easy to understand why Suga called himself a slave here. Slaves in Joseon were almost completely blocked off from advancing to higher classes, so for a slave to become a king is basically impossible. But Suga's saying he made it happen. The following line is a reference to Kwanghae-gun, the king of Joseon dynasty in the 17th century. He developed paranoia while in power and notoriously became violent and reckless, hence the line "Berserk Tiger, Kwanghae Flow." But I think there are more reasons Suga referenced Kwanghae in the lyrics, especially if you consider what his life was like. Kwanghae-gun had a very roller coaster of a life. Originally, he was a war hero, defending Joseon against the Japanese invasion of 1592, one of the biggest wars in Korean history. His father, who was then king, had fled when the war broke out, and the 18-year-old Prince Kwanghae led Joseon troops in the battlefield. Rarely at this time did kings or to-be kings go out into the battlefield themselves. So Kwanghae, fighting with the people, won their hearts over, and there were movements to throne him as the king instead of his father. The father felt threatened by this, so he made a lot of political efforts to stop Kwanghae from gaining influence. Eventually, Kwanghae became stuck between two large political powers, and this struggle eventually made Kwanghae go paranoid and become violent and reckless. Ultimately, he was dethroned after a coup. I think Suga somewhat relates to Kwanghae as he himself had been through a tough adolescence, having to go out into the battlefield at an early age, just like Kwanghae did. He was an idol with no money, from a small company stuck in an industry dominated by big corporations. When Suga started winning battles and gaining power, he must felt a lot of efforts from the existing big powers to keep him away from the throne, like what Kwanghae experienced from his father when the people wanted him to become the king. Suga mentions putting his past in the rice chest. For many Koreans, the word Twiju, or rice chest, is strongly connected to the tragic story of Sadoseja, which involves him dying in a rice chest. Sadoseja was the son of then King Yeongjo, and his father was extremely harsh on him, humiliating him and scolding him in front of others at a very early age. This became so severe that Sadoseja attempted to commit suicide a few times, but even then, he was treated terribly. He developed what modern doctors diagnose as bipolar disorder and began acting very violently. Eventually, the king ended up hating Sadoseja so much that he ordered Sadoseja to go into a rice chest. Sadoseja went in, and he was stuck inside for 8 days and eventually starved to death. Sadoseja had a troubled life, filled with being humiliated and mistreated, and mental health issues just not being understood. Suga has been pretty open about his mental health issues he had when he was growing up, and I think he relates to Sadoseja. He sees himself in him. He says he's putting his past in the rice chest. It's a declaration that he's putting the old troubled Yoongi, the Sadoseja Yoongi, behind and looking at what's ahead of him. In the second verse, Suga focuses more on how he's now on the throne and he's better than everybody else. Suga directly name drops Bang PD and also takes a shot at other artists who do drugs thinking that they write better music while they're high. I won't name any names here, but I'm sure you can think of an artist, or a few artists for that matter, that will be at the butt end of this. Some in bigger companies, in fact.
Ooh, boy!
The diss aside, this line is also a glimpse into Bang PD's relationship with BTS. In a typical company, it'd be extremely difficult to even mention the name of your boss this openly without putting the honorifics Nim, especially considering how much a veteran and how much older Bang PD is compared to BTS. However, Suga name drops Bang PD as if he was his friend. We can sense that there is a very close bond and assume that Bang PD is very democratic with BTS. The fact that Suga is talking of Bang PD so casually is a flex of its own to others, as it's a sign that BTS has become so big and valuable to the company that he's at level with Bang PD.
그다음은 그래 뭘 관심이 느껴지는 현타 위가 없는 현상 위험보다 난 이젠 강하게 맘보다가 이대로 쫓아가고.
Now this is an interesting bit. Here Suga uses the Korean word hyunta. Hyunta is an interesting Korean slang that is used all around the internet. Directly translated as wise man's time, it is a word to describe the feeling you get right after you've ejaculated. Yes, ejaculated. And you feel no more sexual urges and you have a moment of clarity in your brain. You feel still, present, and sometimes disappointed that the short moment of satisfaction was all you got and you worked so hard for it. This slang originated from Japan, but it has become a staple in Korean everyday language, and it is widely used in everyday life outside of sexual situations. Usually in situations when you finally got what you dearly wanted and you wonder, that was it? Suga's saying he's feeling extreme hyunta because he has it all. He has money, he has clothes, he has everything he ever wanted, and there's nothing, no one above him. While this could be considered a small cry for help, I think within the context of this song, it's more of a hard flex. He's saying, others can only dream of what I have, but now I got everything and I feel bored and disappointed. But you won't know how I feel because you never had any of this. BTS has been on the top for the past few years, absolutely dominating, with a level of popularity that has never been seen in K-pop before. They're so dominant that it's sometimes easy to forget that they too had humble beginnings. In fact, more humble than most top artists out now today. They had to fight their way through discrimination, mistreatment, and humiliation. 대취타 is a reminder that this was where they started, and they took that system down. And it's also a warning that they had the resilience and the force to go through all of this, to go from slave to king. If you want us to make more videos like this, supporting us on patreon.com/DKDKTV helps us a lot. These explain videos get copyright claimed, thus we make no money off of them, 0 cents. So please consider supporting us on patreon.com/DKDKTV. For just a cup of coffee a month, you can get exclusive content and also help us continue our careers. And until next time, bye bye.